today it's all about all kinds of little things, and I'm going to take you right along with me. Oh, we're going to start some drying of herbs that I know we're going to need for the holiday. We're also, I picked up some, if you haven't seen these are the silicone containers, and aren't they pretty? And we've got some bread baking to do that's going to go in these. You can use these for the holiday, so I'm looking forward to that. They only had one of the little muffin tins, and that's okay. You know, I don't mind putting it back in and keeping it going, but I want it to stay with the same color. So we've got some baking that's going to be done today. I also picked up a couple of boxes of jars. These are little jelly jars, and I'm in the process of getting them into the dishwasher because I think we, all of us, are going to put together a holiday jam. And so I've got everything for it. We've got time to get it done before the holiday, and we might even put a little decoration on it. Who knows? Who knows? But there's a lot going on in the kitchen. And so I'm going to, as you can see, I'm showing you, I'm being real. I'm showing you. My kitchen is a mess because I have so many different little projects that need to get done today. So we're going to do that, and I know you're going to have a good time. So pull up a seat and let's get started. Let's put together some pumpkin gingerbread. And, you know, I love gingerbread and I love the flavors of pumpkin bread. So we're going to combine those two and make something a little bit unique that you might want to serve at your holiday dinner. And you know what the nice thing about this is that you can prepare it and freeze it and have it already in your freezer and ready for the holiday. So let's put that together. We're going to start with, and I've got my recipe here just to make sure I don't forget anything. We need 2½ cups of all-purpose flour. So I'm using my King Arthur. That doesn't have to be your brand, but that's mine. Get a good cup of flour. There's one. And this recipe is very forgiving, so things don't have to be exactly perfect. There's 2, and then I'm going to get a ½ cup. Okay, there's my ½ cup. 2½ cups of all-purpose flour. And like I said, the brand you choose is up to you. From there, I'm going to add in a teaspoon of ground ginger. But I'm going to kick it up another notch. So you just watch and see what we're going to do. All right, so here's our ground ginger. And I need a teaspoon. Okay, ready to go. I love these little magnetic spoons I got from Amazon. Notice how it's an oval shape. So when we get ready to put it into the bottle, it goes in very nicely. And I can just slide it and bring it out. So there's our teaspoon of ground ginger, ready to go. I'm also not at this point, but I am going to add some additional crystallized ginger, which is just going to kick that gingery flavor up. So hold on to that. All right, so we've got our ginger in there, and from there, I'm going to use pumpkin pie spice. And the reason I'm doing that is that it's going to save me some time. So this is a brand new container. I buy it according to the season. Ooh, it smells wonderful. It has all of these flavors. It's got cloves. It's got allspice. Let's see, what else is in there? It has cinnamon and nutmeg. All of that's in there. So we're going to add in, I'm actually going to put in 2 teaspoons. There's 1 and there's 2 of our pumpkin pie spice. And, you know, this is something that you always get a small container of because, you know, the flavor is just not going to last until next holiday. So get a small container, use it in everything you can, and then you won't feel bad if you have some left over that you just have to toss because it's not as perfect as you'd like for it to be. Okay, so we've got those seasonings in. I'm going to add in about a half teaspoon of salt. Okay, I've got my salt. I'm going to add a teaspoon. I love these little wooden spoons. I got these on Amazon too, but they're perfect. They go right in my container and it's ready to go. So that little spoon stays in there strictly for the salt. So I have my salt and all the other seasonings. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to take a larger spoon and give all of this a good stir. So that all of those seasonings will have a chance to go through our flour. I also need to add in, let's see, a teaspoon of baking soda. Okay, I have my teaspoon of baking soda. So I'm going to sprinkle and put that little spoon back in its container. Our baking soda, and give all of this a good mix before I start to add anything liquidy into our batter. So there we go. Now, I'm going to put in a half cup of oil, and you use whatever oil you like. I wouldn't use olive oil because olive oil has a certain fragrance. Today I've got grapeseed oil, and that's what's going to go in the pumpkin bread. This is a 1/4 cup measure, so I'm going to have to use 2 of these. So we've got 1. And I have 2. That's a half cup of oil, whatever type of oil you like. And like I said, this just happens to be grapeseed oil. In a separate container, I'm going to crack 2 eggs. And I'm doing it in a separate container because just in case there's a little bit of shell or whatever, I won't have to fish it out of our bread. Okay, I have 2 eggs, and I'm actually going to give them a little bit of a whip. And then we're going to add that into our bowl. Notice everything's going in. This is such an easy recipe. All right, we've got our canola oil, we've got our eggs, and what we need at this point is a smaller can. This was the only size can I had. This is a 29-ounce can, and I'm going to need half of this in the recipe. So that's what we're going to do. Half of this can will go into the recipe. And it should come out to about 2 cups. So half the can is here in our recipe, ready to go. There we go. And we're going to need to add some sugar. So I need a cup of sugar. I'm going to do a half cup of brown sugar, half cup of brown sugar, and a half cup of just regular granulated sugar to get in that little extra flavor. So let me get an extra spoon here because I don't want to stick this container down into my sugar. And I'm going to pack it. Oop. You know, a little bit of extra won't hurt. All right. All right, so I have a 1/2 cup of brown sugar. You know, brown sugar has molasses. Even though we're going to add some additional molasses, I did want to add that brown sugar. All right, so that's our 1/2 cup. Actually, that was a 1/4 cup. So I want a 1/2 cup. Let me check that. Yes, I want a 1/2 cup, so I need one more. Because we need a full cup of sugar. All right, so that's our brown sugar. Keep this in mind, cooks. Your breads like this, your little easy breads like this are so much fun to make. All right, so let me get my regular sugar. And it just so happens that I have a 1/2 cup already in the container. So I'm going to get a 1/2 cup of regular granular sugar. That's ready, and put that back where it goes. So the sugar is taken care of. The only thing left are the molasses. And these are Grandma's molasses. And we need about a cup of Grandma's molasses. And even though we use the brown sugar, we're still going to add in a full cup. And that cup almost comes out to a full jar. 1 cup. All right. So there's our molasses. Our jar is just about gone. I'm going to go ahead and let that stream and get the last of the goodness out of that jar. And in fact, I'm probably going to take a spatula and go down in there. But I want to get all of this out of the cup and into our bread mix. Now, as I was saying, you know, when you're preparing for holidays or special dinners, then keep in mind that you're going to want to prepare some things in advance. So that's what we're doing. We're preparing in advance. So that's our molasses. And I'm going to see if I have a spatula skinny enough to get down in this jar. I'm going to cheat. I need a 1/2 cup of boiling water. So I put some water in here. I'm going to give it a good shake. And clean that jar. And what I'm going to do is that I'm going to sit this in the microwave for about 1 minute, and then we'll add it to the mixture. Whew. It's all about your time and what you have time to do. And so here in the kitchen, we're trying to prepare for the family. I'm taking tops off in case that noise bothered you. But we're trying to prepare for the family and also save ourselves in the process. So I'm getting my jars. I'm not going to do them by hand. I'm going to throw them in the dishwasher and let them wash and get them ready for our jam making, because we're going to jam it up here in the kitchen and we're going to get it ready for the holiday. Now, also, in addition to that, as I said, I have some herbs that I was given, and I put my oven on 350. So 350, I'm going to turn it off. And I'm going to sit my pans. Now, this is pretty full. I already know that. So, for those of you who are true blue dehydrators and dryers, and you do all that, yeah, I know. But I only had 2 pans, so we're going to make it work. So, I'm going to put these into the oven, and they're going to stay there in that nice, warm, toasty oven, get dry, and we're going to have them for a holiday to be able to use for our seasoning. Now, you know, here in the kitchen of Ebony Ivy and Thyme, it's always a good time. So if you just happen to have stopped by today, then know that no, Miss Leona's kitchen is not always perfect, but I try to keep it clean, and I do, and I have a routine, and you know, we'll take a look at that. And so we're just going to do what we do right here in the kitchen. Now, while we're waiting, let's do a little cleanup. And so we've actually killed 2 birds with 1 stone. We took care of our molasses, the stickiness of that molasses in the jar by warming it up and putting the water in there. So I'll make sure that I have all of the molasses out of that jar. That jar was exactly 1 cup. So I have the rest of the molasses that was left in the jar, and I have the 1/2 cup of boiling water that needs to go in this mixture. Now, for just a second, I'm going to set that off to the side, and I'm going to do a little beating because I want to get this nice and mixed, and I don't want to work, you know, do something that's going to mess up our eggs. So I'm going to get our beaters all together here. Get them in. Okay. I have this down on low because we don't want to over mix it. Okay, now I'm going to drizzle in our liquid while it's beating. I'm going to turn it up just a little bit. Ah, it smells wonderful. I'm going to loosen up your batter, which is what you want. You could certainly put nuts in this gingerbread, in this pumpkin gingerbread, but we're not doing that today. We're just going to have our ginger crystals. I'm going to take my spatula and scrape down the sides now that I have everything in there. The only thing left is to add the crystallized ginger. So I'm going to set this off to the side. Like I said, this is called crystallized ginger. Now, how much you put in is very candy-like, and it comes, it smells good, in little cubes. So we're going to add about a handful of these little cubes, because remember, this is going to make at least 2 batches. So I'm going to put those in, and I don't want to overuse them, but they're good. Grandma is all gone. Now, put it on low. And we're going to mix our little candy cubes in. So every now and then, when someone's eating this bread, they're going to get a little bit of the crystallized ginger, the candied ginger as well. Just adds another little layer of flavor and just a tiny bit of heat. All right, there we go. Let's taste just a little bit. That really is very tasty. And you know, I would suggest that you make 2 batches of this so that you'll have 4 loaves, have some for breakfast, have some just sitting on your buffet table, and have some in the freezer ready for another day. Now, I have 2 loaf containers that I'm going to be using, and this recipe actually prepares 2 loaves. So I'm going to try to keep them even. And we'll try to even them out if we can. The nice thing about the silicone containers is that your loaves should come out perfectly. And you know, when you take them out of the oven, once they're finished baking, then you're going to let them sit until they're cool. And then take them out. Don't try to remove them and they're still warm. Okay, so we have 2 nice loaves. I'm going to clean them up just a little bit. Let me get a towel and get all the sides cleaned up. All right, the batter's in each of the loaves, and they are about as even as I think I can get. And I'm also bringing you in a little closer for some of those things that I used. Our pumpkin pie spice, our crystallized ginger, of course the ground ginger. We used brown sugar and granulated sugar, as well as, even though I purchased a 29-ounce can, I only used half. So I have enough for another batch of pumpkin bread. I'm sitting my container inside of another baking pan so that it will be more stable in the oven. We're going to cook it until it's done. Now, as you can see, the herbs are here on the pan, and I just gave them a little moment out of the oven. But once the baking of those loaves are finished, I'll sit them back in the oven where they can finish up. But as you can see, they're drying out very nicely. And once they're finished, I'll crush them and put them into their respective jars. We're going to put together another in advance holiday idea. And this is for your dessert table. It's going to be very pretty. Now, it just so happens that I have some jam. And so in my bowl, I have 1 full stick of melted butter. I'm going to add in a 1/3 cup of powdered sugar. And we're going to get this mixed up well. And then we'll start to add the rest of the ingredients. Okay, you know, powdered sugar can get a little lumpy. So we're going to mix this up, mix it well. There we go. Put my top on here. I think I still have a little bit in the bowl. See if I can get all of this bag in here. We might be able to do that. Just a little bit left. Now, we're going to work very carefully and try not to make a major mess. Voila! Powdered sugar in the container. I'll get this cleaned up and then we'll move on to adding the rest of the ingredients. I just wanted this to cool off a little bit. Now let's get a little cleaning going. My friend Tamara was so sweet. She sent some white dish towels. And she knows how much I love my white dish towels because they're just so easy to keep clean and to get things cleaned up. So I'm using those today. Thank you, Tamara. And we're going to continue with our recipe. The recipe calls for 1 egg yolk. So I'm going to put this over in my little cup. Take as much of the white out as we can without making a total mess. 1 egg yolk. There we go. Now I'm going to save that egg white off to the side because we might have to use that. Okay, from there, my recipe says that I need a teaspoon of vanilla extract. My favorite vanilla is Watkins. So I have 1 teaspoon. And if you just happen to get just a tiny bit extra, it's okay in this recipe. So we have our vanilla. And from there, we need about a 1/4 teaspoon of fine salt. Now, I'm not going to put any additional salt in because my butter had salt, so we don't need to add that. And if you have almond extract, you can add that. But since I don't, that means that I can add just a tiny bit more of the vanilla. So I'm going to put in about a capful extra vanilla. So now you know why. Vanilla almond extract was what it was called for. I didn't have that. So I'm just going to add a little extra vanilla. All right, so we need 1 1/4 cups of all-purpose flour. I've got my flour here, and let's get it all ready to go. Okay, let's get our 1 cup. There's 1. And I need a 1/4, so I'm just going to add a little 1/4 in. Now, you know, it's easy to tell. So, it's a little too much. Okay, there's our 1/4. 1 1/4 cups of flour. I also need, my recipe calls for 1/3 cup of white sugar. So, let's put that in. 1/3 cup. Make sure you have sugar. Yes, we're good to go. 1/3 cup of sugar. All right, that's it. Now it's time to get everything all mixed up. And you notice I'm using just a whisk. But I'm going to come back and use the mixer. We're going to need that. All right, this is done. Okay, you'll see that I have one of my Snapware containers here, and I'm going to get a tablespoon, and I'm going to scoop out about a tablespoon each for each ball of the cookie. And this is a little shortbread cookie that we're going to put together. And if you need a little extra, you can certainly do that. But the warmth of your hand will help to put that all together. And I'm going to place them into this container. Now, if you're preparing this in advance, this is perfect, because then you can put all of your little shortbread balls in your container and freeze them so that you'll have them ready. So this is a heaping tablespoon in each of the balls. And I would suggest that you make at least 2 batches, because they're going to melt in everyone's mouth. And especially if you have a lot of people coming for the holiday, you're definitely going to want additional cookies. And a variety of cookies, of course. I'm going to put these into the refrigerator. We have just a little over a baker's dozen. And like I said, I got 14 out of this batch. And so we'll be able to have room enough. I can actually do a second batch, and that's going to make that cookie tray all the prettier. I have my toothpick, and now is the time to test. And the secret of testing, poke it into the center and see if it comes out clean. If it comes out clean, she's ready. There's one. And there's two. They're ready. Let's take them out. Now, because we're trying to dry out those herbs, I'm going to go ahead and turn the oven off. I had it on 350 like we did to begin with. So I'm just going to put the trays of the herbs back in and let them finish up. The oven's off, and those herbs will finish up quite nicely. For today's plant-based lunch, we're going to start with 2 cups of rice. I have a mixture of black pepper, chili pepper, some cumin, and garlic and onion powder. And I'm going to sprinkle all of that in. Give this a good stir. I'm going to add about a half can of Rotel tomatoes, about a half. I'm going to add an entire can of drained black beans, and these are organic black beans. Give everything a mix, and we're going to add just a little bit of liquid. You could certainly add a little bit of taco seasoning. If you can find some that does not have salt, then you can add that in. It's going to give you a little Tex-Mex. Now, let's get ready for our liquids. I'm going to add 2 cups of water. Now, you could certainly add vegetable broth if you have it. I'm out. So I'm just going to add a little water. I need a little moisture for all of this to come up to temperature because we want our beans nice and hot. We want the tomatoes nice and hot. And of course, the rice is going to soak up, as well as the beans, will soak up most of that moisture. And once this is hot, we'll give it a taste because I know those tomatoes are just a tiny bit spicy. So I don't think I'm going to need to add any additional seasoning to this mix, other than I do want it just a little bit more savory. So I'm going to add in 2 teaspoons of nutritional yeast, which is also going to add that plant-based protein to our lunch. So let's let's give that a good mix. Yummy. Now how quick can you put lunch together? In less than 10 minutes. Brown rice, you can certainly do it with a different kind of rice, whatever kind of rice you like. But there we go. All right, so this is going to get hot. I have it on low because I don't want it to stick. At this point, I've added a full 1/4 cup of the nutritional yeast because I wanted a little more cheesy flavor added to it without adding the cheese. I'm also going to shake just a little bit of Bragg's liquid aminos. You could certainly use Bragg's coconut aminos, but it's going to add a little additional savory flavor to your dish. So I'm going to add a little bit of that to our mixture. Give it a good stir. And I'm debating, I think I'm going to add the rest of those tomatoes because they really are very good. So let's put those in, which will also give us some additional liquid. And I'll give you the exact measurements down in the description box. Does that not look good? Now this is something your children will eat as well as your hubby will eat on a good taco night. Serve it with some chips if they're not watching their salt intake. You could certainly serve them with some chips or now don't forget, if you want to get your family on board with your meat-free meals, you have to make sure that they taste good, that they're very flavorful. And so the only way to do that is to bump up those seasonings. So I've got my seasoning just where I wanted it. I'm going to taste it just to make sure. That's good. Adding the additional tomatoes added the level of flavor that I needed. If you're more of a garlic person, you may want to add just a little extra garlic, and I think I'm going to do that. Just sprinkle a little extra in. I'll give that a stir. The Bragg's amino, I think we might need just a little more. You know, I'm going to give you the basic, and then from there, you can add and subtract as you desire, because this is a work in progress. And just think, this is deliciousness that we can eat today, have enough left over, maybe even for lunch tomorrow. And if you're on a budget, this might be lunch and then dinner. So that part's up to you. Well, let's get ready to serve it up. Remember, when you're working with rice also, is to be sure to take your spoon and make sure that as you're turning, that you're touching the bottom of your pan. Oh, this is going to be so good. Nice and hot on a cool day. Here we have lunch. Let me get a fork. All right, let's see how we've done. What was I waiting for? This is delicious. I think the big guy will even like this. Friends, let me be honest. It is always a blessing to be right here in the kitchen with you. And I hope you're taking the time to not only do things fun in your kitchen, but that you're also sharing those opportunities with others, whether they're family members or whether they're your next door neighbor. You're going to bring it all together, bring everybody and gather them into your home, into your kitchen, at your kitchen table, and we're going to sit down or stand up, depending on what we're doing, but we are going to have a good time. And that's what your kitchen is all about. So think back to the past when your mom and your grandmother was in the kitchen. Everybody wanted to be in that kitchen because there were good smells coming out of that kitchen. There were stories being told right here in the kitchen. So we're going to be doing all of that. We're going to talk. We're going to tell some tales. We're just going to have a great time here in our kitchen. So if you like those kind of things, I hope you're going to be on the lookout because, you know, I do these kind of things every week and we're going to have a great time at it. So God bless you. Have a wonderful week. I hope you plan something for this week that is going to be unusual, but is going to just make everyone in your household smile. So, mwah, mwah, mwah. Enjoy yourselves, and I'll see you soon right here at Ebony, Ivy, and Thyme. See you soon.